Thank y'all for breathing with me for a second. My name is Karen Hewitt, and I'm honored to have the conversation with the ever brilliant and powerful Dr. Treva Lindsey on today. I say powerful because there is so much power in just words. And words mean things. And we're going to talk about truth telling as survival and liberation, and what it means to keep speaking and writing the truth in this moment. Just to give a little bit of context, because y'all need to know who I'm talking to right now. Dr. Treva is a professor at The Ohio State University, co-founder of the Black Feminist Night School at Zora's House, and founder of the Transformative Black Feminisms Initiatives at OSU, TOSU, I'll say that. Her research and teaching interests include African American women's history, Black popular and expressive culture, Black feminism, hip-hop studies, critical race and gender theory, and sexual politics. Her most recent book, America Goddam, Violence, Black Women, and the Struggle for Justice, received a starred review from Kirkus Books and was described as required reading for all Americans. Her first book, Colored No More, Reinventing Black Womanhood in Washington, D.C., was a Choice 2017 Outstanding Academic Title, and she was published in the Journal of Pan-African Studies, Souls, African and Black Diaspora, the Journal of African American Studies, African American Review, the Journal of African American History, Meridians, Feminism, Race, Transnationalism, Urban Education, The Black Scholar, Feminist Studies and Science, and I'm gonna say it every single time, she's amazing, okay? All right, and I'm gonna stop talking about you like you're not sitting right there. So you've done a thing or two, and so with that introduction, what I want you to put into the space right now is let me know what I didn't say that is on your heart or spirit right now that you want in this moment for this room.
Thank you, Karen, for that very generous introduction. I'm honored to be on this stage with you and honored to be here with all of you today. I'm thinking of us right now. We are in a deep moment of needing one another right now in such profound ways. And I think there's so much happening where we're attacking each other and engaging each other in very ungenerous ways. And I think it's white supremacy at work. I think it's capitalism at work. I think it's sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism. I think all of these things are at work. And those systems feel so hard to fight. And so we end up fighting one another. And so I'm sitting in a deep space of need and of intimacy with us and revisiting that, because I think there's something very powerful about us convening and loving on each other in spite of. I think white supremacy pours into us a deeply unloving spirit because it is a deeply unloving system. And so when we learn that and imbibe that and we understand, particularly as Black folks, anti-Blackness is an unloving logic, we find ourselves at this place where we keep repeating the logics of white supremacy because we too have to unlearn anti-Blackness. It's not just a project for non-Black people. It's something we have to unlearn, and it shows up all of the time in the deeply ungenerous, uncaring, unloving ways that we engage each other.
Yeah, we were meant to be in community. We're not built to be individuals. We're built to be connected and to have a human experience with each other. So thank you for highlighting that. We have been taught to see truth-telling as complaint. You utilize truth-telling as liberation.
Yes.
So can you explain on like a macro level how you believe truth-telling can help us arrive at liberation personally and collectively?
Yes. So, I always kind of bristle at the term, right, when somebody's like, you got to be brutally honest. You could be brutally honest with me. And I'm like, I don't ever want to be brutal with people I care about. That does not mean I do not want to be honest or candid or transparent, but it means that honesty is rooted in a care ethic, in something that's about my connection to you, again, that intimacy. And so I look at truth-telling as a way to, one, we share history, we share our archives, we share our experiences. We don't get an analysis of what's going on in the world if we're not telling the truth about what the world is, what it's been, and then the truth about what we want it to be and how we see that together. And so at that macro level, being able to speak to what is going on, what has happened, is one of our greatest gifts to be able to do that in all kinds of forms, right? Some of us do that in writing, some of us do that through dance, some of us do that through music, some of us do that through caring for people, cooking for people. There's so many ways and languages of showing up to truth tell. But if you view truth telling simply as a way to expose brutality, for example, which is one part of truth telling, but you're not truth telling to get to a place of care, you're not truth telling to get closer to people and to understand people. Because truth telling also requires that we're listening and that we're hearing each other and listening for those lower frequencies that aren't always heard. So who are we not hearing in a room? And in all your truth telling, are you listening to other people? Are you centering yourself? Because that takes you out of community in very real ways. But you get to say, well, I just told the truth. And it's like, well, where did that get us? The truth is out there, now what? Are we more caring? Are we more loving? Are we more just? Are we more equitable? These are the kinds of things I think about when thinking how we use those words and we mean what we say and say what we mean. And I mean, the meaning of that is a practice, right? The words live. I think of words as like four-dimensional dynamics. So you have to breathe into them and they breathe back into you. And when you speak power into someone, you're using that. That's what truth-telling can do at its best. At its worst, it's a form of brutality, hence the form brutal honesty.
I'm gonna let that sit there for a second for all of y'all. For all of y'all, I said what I said, folks. I'm gonna let that sit right there. That takes us into your last book. So America Goddam, if you haven't read it, you need to. And it is intense. And I'm gonna tell you that right now. It is intense, it is factual, it is true, it is well researched and well coordinated. So read it and with intention. But when you were writing that, what were you trying to capture that words kept failing to hold?
Yeah. So much, Karen. I ran from that book. I did not want to write a book about violence. I did not want to talk about my own experiences with violence. As a Black woman, I didn't want to do that. And I was like, I'm writing this 90s book. It's going to be fun. 90s kind of girl, write about fly girls and, living single. Like, I was very excited about this project. And it just, in that moment, wasn't received. And this is 2020 when I began writing this project. And I talk about this a little bit in America Goddam, but I go home to DC to visit my mom for the first time during the pandemic. And I witnessed something. This horrible incident of interpersonal, intimate partner violence, and I intervene. And it is a very trying moment. It just took something out of me. And I was like, this happens way too much. I feel like I have to write this book about what is happening to Black girls, women, and gender-expansive people. And I went home, told my editor, my agent, we went to work on it. Never do this if you're a writer for a book, but I wrote the book in 4 months because I needed it out of me. It was so much to sit with. I'd also recently lost my dad. And so it was a book filled with grief. It was filled with rage. And it was filled with a deep love for Black women, girls, and gender-expansive people, and for myself. So as much as it's a difficult book, it is also a love letter to say, I'm going to tell the truth about what's happening to us. I am going to tell the truth about what has happened to us and what we need to do for this not to be happening to us. And so the last part of the book, the epilogue that I added after the book was done, is a love letter to Ma'Khia Bryant, a Black girl who was killed by police in Columbus, Ohio. And she was killed the same day Derek Chauvin was convicted for the murder of George Floyd. And I needed to have her on the pages of that book. I needed her life to mean something. I needed to talk about her, not just as a statistic or a data point or another hashtag, but a fully enfleshed Black girl whose genius we missed out on because of the brutality of this world. I watched her videos of her laying down her baby hairs and singing in that. And so it was so important to me that even when I was talking about death, I found a life-affirming way to do that, to honor that, and to read it and write it as though a loved one of theirs was in the room with me. That would they be okay that this was here? Would they feel that I held, as Ntozake Shange says, their loved one warmly? Am I singing a Black girl song when I do this?
I think about the adultification and the loss of innocence for Black women specifically, and Black boys as well. As you're talking about like movement and words, I just want to talk quickly about your next book.
Yes.
We started talk. This was supposed to be a talk about that book, but you said it keeps getting interrupted.
Yes.
By grief, by fascism, by life. So tell us more about this book.
Yes, so the book is called Words Mean Things. And thinking about grief, rage, and love as these registers in which we use these words or hashtags or framings of things, and the kind of weaponization of the government against those words, right? The criminalization of certain things. So you actually have bills called like anti-woke bills that are circulating. That's literally what they call them. That the fact that so many people are saying woke and use it so derisively in this moment, I'm like, yeah, let's trace that back to the history, to a blues song from the 1930s, right? It's the first on record usage of the word woke, which is basically to warn Black folks about where to be and where not to be, right? It's a kind of sonic green book, if you will, that's being iterated. So we have this history and it shows up in all of these different Black moments. So yes, being aware of how I stay alive matters. And if you think about anti-woke in that, if you think about wokeness being a politic of survival and someone being anti-woke, they are anti your survival, right? That's what I want to get at in this book, and why it's been so challenging to get to the core of this book, to finish this book, is because stuff keeps happening. And the landscape keeps shifting under my feet. I think I have it, and then some new bill happens, right, or some new word becomes the word that they're attacking. Some new community that's using this is under attack, and I'm trying to figure out where I have to stop, because the rage is overtaking, right? Their rage is overtaking, and I am trying to contend with writing a love letter to my folks while writing about what the consequences of white, capitalistic, heteropatriarchal rage are.
I think it's almost like empathy to me is like the word we can stop at, because when we start to have to convince people around humanity, I think we're in a dangerous place, and we're there.
Yes.
So, you know, when we say Black women, if Black women have what they need, if Black trans women have what they need, we will all have what they need.
Come on,
what we need. Yeah, okay. So what does this moment mean for us as Black women?
Ooh. Sisters, I love us. And I need us to love on each other much harder than we are right now. We are imbibing a lot of anti-Blackness, a lot of anti-Black womanness is surrounding us and our existence. And it is much easier to fight here than it is to fight there. It's much easier to do this, but it is much more harmful to do this. And I think that notion of saying, let us come together and talk about our grief and rage and see how we want to move forward, how we want to love each other better. When Combahee River Collective says that, right, if Black women were free, then all of us would be free. The thing that they're getting at is the multiple systems of oppression that Black women face, right? So they're talking about sexism, they're talking about racism, they're talking about classism, they're talking about heterosexism, they're talking about imperialism, colonialism, because this is a global framing of all of these things. And so if we were to address our needs and put ourselves at the center of our political organizing, by just sheer doing that, there's something liberatory and possible. It gives us another way to freedom dream. It gives us another way to imagine ourselves. But I think it requires a deeper love practice than what we have right now. And I don't think it's gonna happen on social media. I don't think it's gonna happen in these spaces that encourage these shorter interactions. It is in more engaged, involved, intimate, and vulnerable interactions. So we need to get back to one another in a very different way.
I love what you said about what's possible. And I think for us as a call to action, as we finish up this talk, going within, first of all, to see what you're contributing, I think is really important to look at first. And then being in community, I think it's really important that we understand how we're showing up in community, and that recycle sign, right? Like, are we loving each other in those deep ways, and are we loving ourselves in that way first, right? And then we can love each other a lot more easily. So I think, may we keep speaking right names and creating language that liberates.
Yes.
So last thoughts for, a lot of millennials are in leadership and different, corporate and community spaces. So can you give a last word of hope or joy or inspiration, or do it, whatever you want to do for them?
Rage with us. Rage with us. Grieve with us. But most importantly, love with us. Love deeply with us. And that love is like a practice of justice, what justice looks like out loud, right? You can't be or say, I love you, and be unjust towards that person. You can't do it. That's not what it is. That also means you have to be accountable, which means we're going to mess up, y'all. You're going to mess up. We all are going to mess up in this journey and this process. But I'm reminded by the words of one of my favorite authors, K.S.A. Lehman, that says that we all deserve good love and second chances and third chances and fourth chances and fifth chances. That we keep pushing towards that, knowing that we're going to be imperfect in everything we do, but we can be deeply loving and deepen our own practice of love and accountability and justice while doing that. So think about that in whatever space you're in, whatever field you're in, to really commit to accountability and what is just.
Y'all heard it here. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you.